Ready to unlock the secrets to acing that classical languages teacher interview. Today's deep dive takes us straight into the interview hot seat.
We're talking strategy, insights, giving you that edge to really impress.
Music to my ears. We've got our trusty career guide, those tricky sample interview questions, even some AI magic later on.
Think of it less like a cheat sheet, more like mastering the art of the interview itself.
Love that. But before we hit the ground running, what does a classical languages teacher actually do day to day? It's got to be more than just like verb conjugations and deciphering old scrolls, right?
Right, it's way more dynamic. You're guiding those curious minds through ancient Greek, Roman literature, the whole shebang, history, philosophy, bringing it all to life.
Sparking a passion for cultures and languages that, let's face it, shaped so much of our world.
Exactly. And that's what today is about, helping you nail that interview and convey that passion. So first question you'll probably get, can you tell us about your experience teaching classical languages?
Seems deceptively simple, right? I'm guessing they want more than just a list of places and classes.
Spot on. It's about showcasing not just what you've taught, but how your passion, your unique teaching style. Don't just say, I taught Latin for 3 years. Think projects, methods, even quick stories that show your impact.
So, like, give me an example. What kind of story would make an interviewer really remember you?
Imagine you're talking about, say, Latin grammar. Instead of just the facts, you could say, I created this interactive game based on certain, those epic Latin grammar battles, and my students were so into it, they begged to play every day.
That's brilliant. It shows you get those ancient languages off the page into their world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did you organize a museum trip, Roman artifacts, maybe a student-run Latin club exploring mythology? Bring those experiences front and center.
Painting a picture, right, so they can see you in the role inspiring their students.
Exactly. And this is where knowing the school's vibe, their values, is key. Check their website, mission statement if they love project-based learning. You highlight your successes with that.
It's all about fit. You're not just a teacher, but their teacher. Which reminds me, speaking of perfect fix, we got to talk about RoleCatcher's AI. It can really help tailor your answers to each school.
Oh, RoleCatcher is a game changer. It digs into the job description, their website, everything, and helps you emphasize the skills they want most.
Like a personal brand manager for your job hunt.
Exactly. And get this, it even gives feedback on your answers to these very questions, helps you fine-tune your delivery for maximum impact.
Okay, that's next level. I'm fired up for the next question now.
Let's do it and be ready. This one's a curveball. How do you incorporate technology into your teaching of classical languages?
Now, that's interesting. It's not like ancient Rome had iPads and Duolingo, so how do you even approach that?
That's where you get creative. Think virtual museum tours, those interactive language apps, even using digital tools to analyze ancient texts in new ways.
Instead of tech being separate, you find ways to weave it into the learning.
Exactly. Our career guide talks about how fast tech is changing education. Imagine your students exploring the Colosseum in 3D, or using apps for vocab practice.
A far cry from those dusty textbooks, I remember, that's for sure.
Tell me about it. You could even talk about online dictionaries, grammar resources, making translations easier, or video conferencing, connecting with Latin scholars or classrooms internationally.
Wait, are you saying students could be debating their counterparts in Rome about Julius Caesar, all through a video call?
Now, that's the kind of forward thinking that'll make you stand out in an interview.
Okay, I'm convinced tech can really breathe new life into these subjects. But let's be real, not every student learns at the same pace. Some might be practically fluent in Latin by high school, others struggling with the alphabet.
Huge point, and it leads us right to the next question. How do you differentiate instruction for students with varying levels of ability in your classical languages classes?
So this is about showing you understand one size fits all just won't cut it in the classroom.
Exactly. It's all about empathy, adaptability, tailoring your teaching to each student.
So more than just having a few extra worksheets on hand.
Oh, way more. Think about how you assess them, give individual support, and still challenge those advanced students without leaving anyone behind.
Okay, now I'm really curious. Concrete examples. Hit me. How would you differentiate for a student struggling with grammar?
Tons of ways. Visual aids like colorful charts, even those building blocks to represent grammar concepts, or pair them with a student who excels in that area, peer tutoring.
Resourceful. Thinking outside the textbook. What about the students who are flying through the material? How do you keep them engaged?
That's when you get really creative. Introduce them to original Latin texts or have them deep dive research a grammar concept, maybe even presenting to the class.
Nurturing that love of learning no matter where they're at on their journey.
Absolutely. And this actually ties back to the career guide, which mentions how tough it can be to engage students who just don't see why classical languages matter. Use this question to tackle that head on.
Right. It's one thing to tailor to different levels, but another to make, like Ovid, feel relevant to a generation glued to TikTok. How do you do that?
By showcasing your passion, connecting it to their world. Maybe you've got creative writing assignments that link ancient myths to modern stories, or projects exploring how much Latin influenced languages today.
So making those ancient voices echo in the present day.
Exactly. And remember, RoleCatcher's AI can be huge here. It can analyze your answers and suggest relevant resources, teaching styles, even professional groups that fit the specific school.
Talk about being one step ahead. It's not just knowing your stuff, it's knowing how to present it so it lands.
You got it. Now, ready for another big one? It's assessment time. Question 4. Can you describe your approach to assessing student learning in your classical languages classes?
Time to put on those assessment hats. This can't just be about vocab quizzes and pop quizzes, right?
Definitely not. It's showing you get how students learn best, how to really gauge their progress beyond just memorizing things. How do you measure their grasp of the nuances, the cultural context, you know?
Okay, yeah, suddenly it feels deeper, like we're showcasing a more well-rounded view of assessment.
Right. When you answer, think of all the tools you use. Do you do those quick check-ins throughout a unit to see who's getting it? What about projects, presentations, even creative writing, to let them demonstrate their learning in a bigger way?
So it's about showing you're flexible, thinking beyond those traditional methods.
Yes. And don't forget to mention how you actually use the assessment data you get. Interviewers want to know you're not just giving grades, but analyzing them to be a better teacher.
Showing that you're constantly learning and improving, too.
Exactly. Data-driven instruction is a big deal for a reason. Okay, get ready for a question where you can really let your passion shine. How do you incorporate cultural understanding into your teaching of classical languages?
This is where those ancient worlds really come to life. It's about going beyond the textbook, right?
Yeah.
Immersing students in the art, the history, the myths, even just the daily life of those civilizations.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to geek out a little here. What lit your fire? Was it a specific myth, a historical figure, an archaeological discovery? Share that excitement.
So instead of just the mechanics of Latin, maybe you talk about how you use Roman mythology to explore those big, timeless themes: love, loss, heroism.
Exactly. Or connect ancient Roman architecture to buildings we see today. I once had a teacher who recreated a Roman feast in the classroom. Find those bridges between then and now.
It's about fostering that love of learning that goes beyond just memorizing words and rules.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Now, before we jump into the rest of the questions, one really important thing.
Good, honest.
Remember, it's not just what you say, but how you say it. That's another place RoleCatcher shines.
Our AI friend is back. How so?
It analyzes your tone, how fast you're talking, even body language you might not notice, like having a personal coach giving you feedback so you nail that delivery.
Okay, now I'm feeling the pressure. Gotta up my game.
You got this. Ready to tackle those rapid-fire questions we skipped?
Hit me with them. Let's do this. All right, right back into that interview hot seat. We tackled some big ones, but no time to relax. Up next, it's all about creating that positive and inclusive vibe in the classroom.
Oh, this one's essential. The foundation of everything, really.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So, question 6 on our list. How do you create a positive and inclusive classroom environment for your classical languages classes?
Love this one. It's about every student feeling welcome, valued. Doesn't matter their background, learning style, even if they weren't thrilled to be studying Latin, you know.
Because, yeah, sometimes this stuff can feel pretty intimidating. You want them comfortable asking, making mistakes, all that.
Exactly. Cultivating that growth mindset where messing up is just part of learning. When you answer this, think actions. Do you do group work, that collaboration, maybe a system for anonymous questions if they're shy?
Being deliberate about those little things that make a big difference is more than just the language itself. It's being that facilitator, mentor, even cheerleader sometimes.
Nailed it. And representation matters too. Are the materials you use showing diverse voices, perspectives? Ancient Rome wasn't all togas and emperors, right? Way more to it.
Right. Got to show that complexity. Okay, on to question 7. This one's about staying current. How do you stay current with developments in the field of classical languages and education?
Ah, yes, the lifelong learning part. Education's always changing, classical languages included. Gotta show you're not stuck in the past.
So how do you convince them you're keeping things fresh and engaging? What do you actually do?
Conferences are huge. Like the American Classical League annual meeting, you'll hear from the best, find new ideas, connect with people, and mentioning specific ones shows you're in the loop.
Networking and learning. Nice. What about new research, all that scholarly stuff?
Can't forget that. Journal subscriptions, online forums, workshops, tons of ways to keep up with the latest discoveries and debates.
Sounds like the learning never really ends for a classical languages teacher.
That's the spirit. And you want that enthusiasm to come through in the interview. Speaking of, next up is about teamwork. How do you collaborate with other teachers and staff members to support student learning in your classical languages classes?
Teamwork makes the dream work, right? Showing you're here to collaborate, not just do your own thing.
Exactly. Teaching isn't a solo mission. What are some concrete examples of collaboration that would impress you if you were the interviewer?
Ooh, good question. Well, if I were interviewing, I'd love to hear about, like, cross-curricular projects. Teaming up with the history teacher for a Roman Empire unit, bringing in Latin sources, inscriptions, all that.
Yes. Or maybe working with the art teacher, connecting Roman mythology to, say, Renaissance painting. The possibilities are pretty endless. Don't be afraid to think big, and definitely mention any experience co-teaching, mentoring, leading workshops for colleagues.
Showing you're invested in everyone's success, not just your own little bubble.
Exactly, that supportive environment is key. Okay, ready for the last one in the set? It's kind of big picture one. What do you think are the biggest challenges facing classical languages education today, and how do you address them in your teaching? Here's where you prove you really get the field, that you can think critically about its future.
Not just loving Latin, but being able to fight for it in a world obsessed with STEM and, like, instant results.
Exactly. And our career guide actually talks about this, those challenges, jobs, funding cuts, people thinking it's dead or whatever.
So how do you address that without sounding like, well, discouraged?
It's about acknowledging the reality, but showcasing your solutions. You can talk about using technology to make it engaging, or projects that connect ancient stuff to things they care about now, like social justice, even the environment.
Being that champion, showing why these subjects still matter.
Right. And it's okay not to have all the answers. Show them you're thinking about it, trying new things, working with others to find those solutions. It's about the approach.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And honestly, those big picture questions can feel kind of overwhelming to prep for.
Totally. And that's where RoleCatcher comes in clutch again. Not only for structuring your answers, but suggesting articles, research, all that to deepen your understanding.
Like having a whole team of researchers backing you up.
Pretty much. That confidence in your knowledge makes a difference in how you come across.
So true. All right, up for tackling those rapid-fire questions we skipped earlier.
Bring them on. Let's do it.
Okay, so we've handled those deep dive questions like champs. But interviewers, they love to throw in some rapid-fire ones too, right? Get a feel for your personality, how you'd fit in.
Like a verbal chariot race. Quick back and forth to wrap things up. But don't let your guard down. These little questions matter.
They're still part of the race, for sure. So imagine you've just nailed those complex answers about challenging students, the future of Latin. Interviewer smiles and says, all right, just a few quick ones to finish up. What's going through your head?
Don't check out mentally. This is your last chance to really solidify that you're the one, knowledgeable, but also like someone they'd want to work with. Enthusiastic, all that.
Showing you're the total package, the classical languages teacher of their dreams, basically.
Exactly. So let's hit some common ones. Almost guaranteed you'll get this. What is your teaching philosophy?
That feels like a big question to squeeze into a rapid-fire round, honestly.
It is, but the trick is to be concise. Boil it down to its essence, something memorable.
So not a 20-minute lecture on, like, Socrates and whatnot. What's a better way to handle it?
Think core values. What's at the heart of it for you? Is it that student-centered learning, lots of exploration, or maybe building the strong relationships, that sense of community in your classroom?
So communicating who you are as a teacher, but also making sure it vibes with what they care about as a school.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to let your passion pick through. It's your philosophy after all.
Gotta be authentic. Okay, another one that pops up a lot. Why did you choose to become a classical languages teacher? Sounds simple, but I'm guessing there's a good and a bad way to answer.
Oh, for sure. This isn't just saying I like Latin and calling it a day. Connect that love for the subject to why you want to teach it, to pass on the torch,
Dig deeper. What was that spark? A certain author, a trip to Rome, a teacher who blew your mind?
Yes. And then how did that translate to wanting to be that teacher for someone else? Maybe they showed you how to make it come alive. Now you want to do the same.
A story with a purpose. Okay, this next one always makes me nervous. How do you handle a challenging student?
Oh, yeah, that one can feel loaded. But stay calm, answer with confidence.
Deep breaths. They're not asking for a list of your classroom disasters.
Right. It's about showing you've got those management skills, that you can create an environment where everyone thrives, even the tough cases.
So how do you walk that line? Keeping order, but still being supportive, inclusive, all that good stuff.
Focus on being proactive. Maybe you set clear expectations from day one, no nonsense. Or you do those community building activities so there's that foundation of respect.
Setting the tone early so everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. Then, talk strategies. Challenging behavior happens, so how do you deal? Open communication, positive reinforcement, working with parents.
Showing you can handle it, basically. That
Yeah.
you're not afraid of the tough stuff and you've got the skills to make it work.
Nailed it. Ready for the last one in this rapid-fire round? It's a classic.
Bring it on.
Do you have any questions for us?
Ah, the tables have turned. Feels weird to be the one asking, but something tells me this matters.
Oh, huge EE time. This isn't just being polite. It's showing you're genuinely interested, engaged.
So none of that, nope, I'm good, and mentally running out the door.
Definitely not. You can say they've covered a lot, of course, but come prepared. Have a couple of thoughtful questions ready. Shows you're curious.
What kind of questions are we talking? Give me some examples.
This is your chance to see if they're a good fit for you. Ask about their professional development, how they support new teachers, even their big picture vision for classical languages.
It's a two-way street. Not just taking any job, but finding the place where you can thrive.
Exactly. And the key is, those questions got to be genuine, coming from a real place of wanting to find the right fit.
Love it. So last impression, seal the deal. You're not just knowledgeable, you're thoughtful and invested.
Mic drop moment.
Yeah.
And, we got to give RoleCatcher props one last time. It can help you practice these rapid-fire questions, too.
Our trusty AI coach, always there. How so?
Practice makes perfect, right? RoleCatcher lets you try these out in a low-pressure way, get feedback on your delivery, even what you're saying.
Like having a personal rehearsal space, but for job interviews.
Exactly. Secret weapon to boost that confidence.
I think we've covered a lot today. From those big, complex questions to nailing that confident delivery, the whole 9 yards.
Interview prep, it's kind of like learning a new declension, right? Takes practice, the right tools.
And a good guide, which is what we're here for. Who knows, listeners, maybe with a little help from us, little AI magic, you'll be the one inspiring the next generation of Latin lovers.
Now that is something to be proud of.
Couldn't agree more. So until next time, listeners, may your interviews be full of amazing answers, your classrooms bursting with those eager learners, and your careers, well, a total Roman triumph.